She's like, no, like, we're letting you go. We don't feel like you've done enough.
Mm.
And I was like, okay. And she's like, there was like the chief photographer in there with me. And she's like, he's going to escort you to your car. And I was
Mm.
like, oh my, what? So I wanted to go back to my computer. I was like I only had to, they only gave me like a time to like go and grab my stuff off my desk. I couldn't go on my computer. I couldn't get like any of the work that I had done. They were like, this is our computer. That's what they told me. And he walked me off of the property into my car. And then they watched me drive. Like, and I think once I drove off, and it hit me like, I literally just got fired from this job and I am at ground zero. Like, I'm like square one. I don't have anything. So,
Welcome to Pinnacle Code, where we spotlight excellence in the culture. I am super excited to be joined by good friend of mine, Samaria Terry. She is a sports anchor and reporter for WKRN Channel 2 in Nashville, which is the ABC affiliate here in town. She's someone I see a lot at Titans practices and games through my day job covering the NFL for Fox Sports. Samaria, it's good to see you. How are you doing on this rainy day in Nashville?
I'm doing good, Ben. Thank you so much for wanting me to come on, and I'm just so excited for all the things that you have going on.
Appreciate it.
Yeah.
Appreciate it. And so yeah, let's dive into it, right? So I know you're from Atlanta. And
Yes.
so I guess kind of my first question is, how did maybe growing up in that city in particular like shape you
Mhm.
as an individual, do you think?
Oh my God, that is a tough question. I don't know if anyone's ever asked me that
Oh,
before.
wow.
Um,
Okay.
yeah, I feel like for me personally, I grew up in a predominantly Black community. I went to a huge high school that was very well known. We have like a lot of people who are kind of famous or celebrities that have gone to my high school. I went to Southwest DeKalb High School, if anybody has ever heard of it.
Got it.
And
Okay.
it was almost like a mini HBCU, just like, you know, piggybacking off the title of your show, the excellence that we got to see there. And, you know, that is, I mean, you really hit it. Like, that's a good question. Oh my gosh.
Take your time if you need a thing.
In church. Yeah, I feel like seeing all of the middle class Black people that, you know, whether that was my own parents or my friends' parents or grandparents that raised them, just kind of seeing like everyone have success. And
Mhm.
um, I think that that kind of helped me know, like, okay, like I have a solid foundation that I'm able to build on, you know, and I don't think
Yeah.
that I was ever necessarily worried about not being okay.
Mm.
You know, like just being able to grow up in a community where everyone took care of everyone, that's kind of rare, you know, especially in Atlanta. Like, I'm not gonna lie. Feeling safe in my community, I think that's something that some people may take for granted, but I never felt unsafe
Mm.
growing up. And then I would go off to college and I'm like, I want to come back home. So I hope that answered your question.
Yeah. No, I like that. And like a big reason for me like wanting to start this show is just like the fact that you grew up in an environment like that is so cool because I had the complete opposite experience. I did not see Black success at all, like outside of like sports and entertainment. Like my family's from Ghana. You know, I grew up in a suburb of Seattle that's very white and Asian.
Mhm.
And even when I'd go like into the city, like downtown, like I never really saw like Black people in suits, like, you know, Black people really doing anything outside of like the stereotypical stuff that we see on TV and whatnot. And so I'm curious, like being in an environment where you did maybe see Black success all the time and in all facets of life, who are maybe the biggest role models for you in an environment like that?
I would have to, of course, say like my parents, just
Mm,
being able to see them get up, go to work, figure out how to get us up and take us to school, get off of work after a long day, feed us, you know what I mean? Help us with our homework, and then do it all over again and make it look so effortless. You
mm.
know, I would have to give them that award. Yeah, for sure.
And okay. And I was listening to a recent podcast that you were on, like it was maybe like a year ago. Yeah, I was doing my
Okay.
homework. Come on now, I'm a journalist, right? I'm a journalist. So you this was a little over a year ago. You had said like your mom like was a big reason like why you were doing like journalism, and you said she had secretly wanted to be a TV anchor, but for whatever reason that never worked
Mhm.
out. Life happened, whatever, had a family. I think you said she's in banking in this
Yes, yes.
particular part. Yeah. And so and I think it's just so cool that that is like what you're doing now is kind of
Mhm.
like what your mom's dream was. And so I guess the question like for me is like what is maybe the pride you take in being able to live out your mother's dream like through your own?
Yeah, and I feel like when I get, words from her like, "Oh my God, Samari, I'm so proud of you." I think that that means so much more coming from her because, like you just mentioned, that was something that she wanted to do. And I don't even think she even told me about it until I kind of started pursuing that. And then
Mm,
she's like, "Well, did you know, like, I have a degree in communications, and that was something that I've always wanted to do." And I'm like, "Oh my God." And I don't remember if I said it in that podcast, but I was like at this luncheon, and the lady that was sitting next to me was talking about how what you do goes through your DNA, just like your looks or your hair or whatever. And that's kind of neat how that is. Like, even with my dad and my dad is in IT and has been for a very long time. And then my brother has a degree in getting his master's in cybersecurity. So
mm.
it's kind of like weird how like that kind of travels through your bloodline, like what you want to do in life and not just your appearance or your person. Well, I guess it's your personality too, because that can kind of travel through your DNA too. For me, it is special because a lot of times children don't feel like they're completely supported by their parents. And I think
Mhm.
what we do, you have to have such a solid support system. And
Yeah,
so I think it's such a blessing to be able to have my mom want to do this. I'm kind of living out her dream in a way. And in this career field where you have to have such a solid foundation,
yeah.
that's really special for me. And I think that's why I've kind of lasted. Oh my God, it's been 8 years, but I've
Mm,
lasted so long when others have dropped off because of my mom, of my dad, and them just helping me, not only financially, because that's important, but
yeah,
just like being there for me emotionally, mentally. I think that's why I've had, um, have been able to do this as long as I have done it and
yeah.
been had the success too in this industry, especially when things get hard,
Mhm.
uh, which they do often.
Yeah,
So just being able to kind of lean on them is something that, I'll be forever grateful for. Yeah.
definitely. And as you were talking, I kind of remembered where I was going with that. Like I was gonna ask, like how would you maybe describe like your relationship with your mom? Because it does seem like you guys are very close, like how she's the first person you talk to or whatever.
Mhm.
And obviously the fact that you're kind of able to do what she had wanted for herself at some point in life. How would you maybe describe that bond that you have? I mean, a mother's relationship with a child or a daughter is in most cases already very special, but how would you maybe describe the relationship you have with your own mom?
Yeah, she's definitely like a best friend to me.
Mhm.
And like the mother-daughter relationship specifically is not an easy, it gets rocky.
Yeah,
It gets rocky.
exactly.
When
Yeah,
you
yeah,
get like middle school, you like, girl, you can't tell me nothing. But I think that once I got to high school and college, I was just like, okay, this is my rock. And it's been like that this entire time. And so, yeah, I would definitely just consider her just the best friend, somebody that I can call. But then obviously she's going to give me the motherly advice that I need to. But if I want to just call her and be like, girl, guess what happened today? I
Yeah.
can do that too, right? And like we can have a good laugh. And she doesn't drink, but we can have a good laugh. And so, yeah, definitely a relationship that I cherish
Okay.
right now.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's awesome. And kind of going back to your like upbringing for a sec, because you had mentioned like how you just were around like so much Black excellence, like,
Mhm.
you know, Black middle class, upper middle class, whatever it was. But then you go to a school like Auburn, which is, you know, very white and very big, and pretty much every market, maybe except maybe Memphis and Jackson, have a large Black population. But just in general, like a lot of the spaces you've been in since leaving your you know your city have been where like maybe there isn't as much Black success or whatever. And so how do you think maybe just how have you maybe navigated that? Uh,
Ooh.
just no, yeah, it's kind of a loaded question, but how have you maybe navigated that? And I feel like maybe growing up in the environment you did equipped you to just being in an environment where you don't see Black success as much. But how have you maybe personally just navigated all that, knowing it's kind of the exact opposite of the environment you grew up around in Atlanta?
Ooh, Ben, it was definitely tough. And you know, especially like going to a PWI, there's always this debate on whether Black children should go to PWIs or should they go to HBCUs. And I've heard it especially once I decided that I was going to go to Auburn, that was like all that I've heard. Like you should have went to an HBCU, or the kids that decided to go to HBCUs, oh, my school is better. Like you are going to a school with Black kids. It's all, I mean, or with white kids, excuse me. And it was just always like this constant battle. But I will say though, going to the high school that I went to, I'm glad that I did go to the PWI, because I don't
Mm.
know if I would have been equipped to handle corporate America. And it's still tough to this day. It is tough. Like some of the microaggressions, and we'll probably get to that later on in the
Yeah.
episode, but
Yeah.
it was really hard. And Auburn is a little bit more liberal than I would say like Alabama or something like that. So it
Mm.
wasn't, we didn't have like a lot of instances of racism, but they were prevalent. They were definitely there. I remember we have like Old Row and New Row for fraternity houses. And KA specifically had a really big house on New Row. And I guess Robert E. Lee's birthday is right after Dr. King's birthday. I don't know what
Oh,
Robert
wow.
E. Lee's birthday is. I don't
Mm.
really care to know. But I think it's right after. And so on Dr. King's birthday, they had this big banner that was like, Happy birthday, Robert E. Lee.
Mm.
And to see that, I think I maybe was a freshman or sophomore. I'm like, okay, so this is what we're dealing with. This is what we're dealing with here. And that it's really not, it wasn't easy to try to navigate that mentally, especially being so young. And I know for me personally, like Black History Month was always difficult for me, like emotionally. I was always so emotional, even as like a little kid. I don't know if I ever feared that like what we were learning was going to repeat itself, even though
Mm.
sometimes it kind of does. So I think like being out of my comfort zone, which was that my community in East Atlanta, and then going to Auburn, where like you said, we are a minority, that was a big challenge for me,
Mm.
because you just didn't know like if you were going to wake up and somebody was going to say something crazy to you,
Yeah.
or if you're out having a good time at the bar with your friend, if someone was going to bump into you and call you out of your name, you know. And that's crazy that like we had to deal with that, you know.
Yeah.
But again, I feel like being in those spaces, and we did still have like a Black student union group. And so we had different groups for us to be able to like discuss things that were going on within the Black community, not just in Auburn, but everywhere. We could talk about like topics and, you know, whatever whatever was going on in the United States at the time. But like I said, I think that being able to be in those spaces or being in those classrooms where I'm the only Black person in there, that really helped me prepare for what I was going to see when then, a few years down the road, I'm the only Black person in my newsroom, you
Yeah.
know? Yeah.
But Samaria, even like knowing that, right? Like you know that it's maybe preparing you for corporate America or whatever, like later on. But like when you're in the moment, right? When you're 19 or whatever, like how difficult is that? Like to just brush aside like some microaggression that a
Mhm.
white student said to you, like when you were 19, 20 years old, like when you were in the moment, what did it take to get past those instances?
Yeah, I mean, it was really difficult. And I remember we did a walkout or we did a protest on campus. And it's so bad to even think about because I'm trying to remember who died because it's just
So many,
off.
yeah.
I want to say it may have been the Michael Brown instance. That was what in Ferguson? That
Yeah,
Ferguson?
Ferguson.
I think that's what it was, and we laid on the ground the amount of like the entire duration that he laid on the ground. I wanna say that's what it was, and I can send you the video because I feel like I still have that on my phone of
Mhm.
us, like, marching through, like, our concourse, our main concourse, and then laying on the ground for the time that he was laying on the ground. And I don't remember us getting any opposition. I think that if people didn't care, they just kind of walked by, but we got a lot of support
Mm.
from it wasn't just Black kids that are marching. We had, white kids or other, people from different ethnicities. We had professors. So I think that like in those moments, then you really kind of get a little bit more peace, knowing that
Mm.
you have the support from your campus when they don't have to support you because it's not an issue that affects them in any way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. And
Mike Brown. Let me look. Was that Mike Brown? What year was that? That's so bad.
Mike Brown was, what was it? Was it 2014? I think
Well,
I
that may
want
have
to
been 14. So yeah,
2014.
I
Yeah.
was in college. Yeah.
Okay.
Mhm.
Wow. Yeah. Yeah. For me too, like I went to University of Portland in
Okay.
Oregon, which is very small Catholic like
Mhm.
university, which is very, very white, but we did have a black student. We did have a black student union too, and we did have allies. And so when instances like that came up, it
Mhm.
was always good to have to knowing that you had this support system to lean on. And so I really feel like what you were saying there. And and to kind of dive into your career more, but also just being a black woman too, like what is it like balancing like your authentic self as a black woman with the career itself, like whether it's how you carry yourself, whether it's kind of like with how you wear your hair, like again, kind of back on my Instagram, like dive of kind of you, like you shared an instance of you took like your braids down and like one of your colleagues like came to you and was kind of like what's going on, and you said like, well, I had to take it down, and then she was like, well, Derrick Henry always has, so uh so, yeah, so explain to me like what has that balance been like for you, like how difficult like has it been to like always maintaining that your authentic self with kind of the job you do, and
Yeah.
how have you gone through that?
I think that for me, I don't know if I'm truly my authentic self in those spaces. I mean, I am right now because I know you were having a conversation. But I think when I go to work, I'm not. And I think that's just because of years of being told you sound like you're from Atlanta. Like so your voice is an issue. You have like a southern twang to your voice. So I've gotten speech coaching, which was
Mm.
not cheap. Your hair, if it's like, okay, I wear my hair straight now because it's just easier. But when I did wear my hair natural, and you saw that during my deep dive, uh, on Instagram. But at one point, I was wearing my hair natural, and then you would get comments from viewers. Or if I wore my hair in braids, that was like, why should I have to be scared or have courage to wear my hair in braids? That was like a big deal, which I didn't even realize was going to go viral when I posted it. But that was just really how I was feeling. I really felt like I had to muster up the courage to wear braids because I didn't know what management was going to say. I didn't know what my viewers were going to say. And even just recently, when I had braids for training camp, I've had people comment on my Facebook and say, "Oh, I like you better with your hair straight."
Mm.
And that's crazy. And then the just recent thing when I took the braids, and I had a coworker say, "Well, Derrick Henry doesn't take his braids down." Y'all know Derrick ain't got no dang braids.
Yeah.
Like, you see what I'm saying? It's just like, why even comment? And I think that's where like the frustration was in that video. Is just it's 2023. Why are we still commenting on hair? Why are we still even like, just don't say anything at all? And I did have a lot of people in the comments. There was like a big discussion in the comments. And you had people that was like, "Well, if I want to comment on your hair, I should be able to comment on your hair." And that's fine. But if it could be offensive, and now it's just going to be a big deal. So maybe just not say anything is the safe bet, unless you're really just saying like, "Oh my God, I really love your hair." And that's it.
Yeah.
But you coming to somebody asking what's wrong with your hair, that was difficult. Yeah. So kind of circling back to what you asked, it has been challenging because I think in this industry, there's a standard on air that you're supposed to look like, you're supposed to sound like, and that's not us.
Mm.
And so we're constantly being told very just, it's not just like really blatant in your face. It's really subtle that you're not the standard.
Mm.
Yeah.
Do you feel like that's changing at all? Like, has there been improvement in that regard in your mind?
Yeah, I do feel like that because I think that a lot of us coming out wearing our natural hair, wearing braids on air, like it's just been like a complete, like, I mean, it's what is the word I'm trying to use? It's just been a trend. That's a good
Trend,
word.
yeah, I was about, yeah, trend.
Trend. For like, I follow, Instagram pages that is like curly girls on air, melanin women in journalism. Like, it's really becoming this, it's becoming just something amazing to see. Because when I first got in the industry, I would have never thought, "Well, I can wear my hair in its naturally curly state, or I could wear my hair in braids, And I think that now, because so many people are speaking out, and because like social media is like huge, like if somebody says anything to you, you can post it just like I did, and somebody may get in trouble. So I feel like management, especially these companies, are being a little bit more lenient on us having our own identity and being able to wear our hair and not try to change us as much.
Mm.
Yeah.
But Samaria, like, kind of knowing, like, as you said, that there, in your eyes, like, you do see improvement, but knowing that you're still going to get those remarks, right? Like, it's still going to come, like the ignorance, microaggressions, whatever it is. So what motivates you to continue to maybe put up with it? Like, have you ever just thought about, okay, maybe I should just do something else, or like what kind of keeps you going in spite of all that?
Yes. I think it's just like the thought of me inspiring someone else, and it's when I get interns, I always have an intern. When I get interns, or when I get students that reach out to me on social media or email me, or just, a DM that I got on Facebook of a parent that's like, "Oh my God, my daughter saw you and she's always wanted to do that, but she's never seen anyone like you, or with braids, or just doing sports." That's a big deal too. I think that continues to kind of push me forward when things get really tough. And I'm like, I don't have to do this. I can go do PR and make so much more money. But I think another big thing is like, this is my passion too. So it doesn't ever feel like work. So I think that when you kind of like weigh the pros and the cons, and I'm like, okay, y'all can just say whatever you want. I'll have the memory of a goldfish, let it roll off my back, and I'll just keep pushing forward. Yeah.
And speaking of it being a passion, I had referenced that podcast you were on like about a year ago, and you said something in that podcast. You said in doing your job, quote, I always wanted to give a voice to people that didn't have one, end quote. What exactly did you mean by that?
Yeah. So I think just with anything that we do as journalists, that is our main focus. Maybe not so much in sports because the athletes that we cover have a voice, they have a platform. But I think just becoming a journalist, that was my goal, especially like in news, like those are the stories that we're doing. We're going out in the community. If someone has an issue, we're telling their stories essentially. And they couldn't get this platform on their own. And so they're trusting us with the information and we're telling it to our audience to raise awareness or whatever, the case may be. So I think that's what I mean when I say like giving a voice to those that don't have one, because there are so many people in our communities that are going through things and we are being tasked with telling those stories and hopefully make a change in those people's lives.
And going back a sec to like you said, like you'll have interns with you like at Titans practices or whatever, showing them the ropes, and most if not all of them have been Black women, like if I can recall. So I guess to them, like Black girls, younger Black women who see what you do and say like I want to do that too, what has maybe been like your biggest like words of advice or wisdom for them?
Ooh, that is a good question. Let me see. Because they ask me so much. I really try to be as honest as possible. I try to be as honest as possible. I don't try to sugarcoat anything. I try to let them know, like, this is what I've gone through in this industry. This is what you can expect to go through, and I think that like when I look back on those who mentored me, those words are the ones that really stuck with me because you have an armor that you can build. You're not coming in blind, because I've seen, and it's not just Black women, I've seen white women, anybody have come into this industry and they're not prepared. And they're like, 6 months, I'm gone. A year, I'm gone, because nobody really came in and told them like, it's not easy. I think that there's this stereotype that our job is easy. And it is not. It is a lot of long days, a lot of covering, especially when you're doing news, covering death, accidents, just the worst type. Like we say, if it bleeds, it leads. So you're covering the worst types of stories. A lot of people think that they can come in and immediately go to a top market. You have to work your way up. So just kind of just letting them know, like, this was my journey, really like laying it out. This was my journey. This is what happened to me. That's not to say that that's going to happen to you, but I just want you to be prepared. So when it comes, you're not like, I can't do this, You'll have the armor to keep fighting.
So when you speak of that journey, and I want to get a little more like practical here, like what do you think were maybe the specific steps you took when you were younger, when you were at Auburn, to put you in a position today where you are in, relatively bigger city covering sports as an anchor reporter? Like, what do you think enabled you to kind of get to this position? Because I think with both of us being in the industry, like we understand like how a lot of people can maybe get stuck in like smaller markets or not really feel fulfilled, or not necessarily achieving like what they wanted to achieve when they first set out the intention of wanting to get into the business. So what do you think you did to set you up to where you are now?
Yeah, I would say in college, and I started really late. And that's another thing that I tell all of my interns, because they're always coming in and they're freaking out. I'm not done enough. I have a cousin, a little baby cousin that goes to Hampton, and she's a freshman. And she's like, I haven't done enough. I'm like, girl, you're a freshman. I didn't get started until my junior year. Crazy. Like, I didn't get started until my junior year. And I think that I just really just locked down and focused. And I remember like winning awards for like creative stand-ups. And I just knew that this is what I wanted to do. And so I think that it just kind of came easy that way. But then when I got my first job in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina, I got fired from that job. I don't know if you know that. I got
No, I
fired from
didn't.
that job after 4 months. I was horrible. So I did like traffic 2 days out the week, like Monday and Tuesday, and I was a morning reporter. I'm not a morning person. Clearly, it's 11:35 a.m. I'm drinking coffee. And so that was a major blow. But I think that altered, just when you hear like other people, like Oprah and like other people who were fired from jobs early in their career, it kind of just like catapults you. Because once you get back in, you're like, I'm not taking this for granted at all. I'm going to make sure that I am like overly prepared and not just coming in and just doing half a work, you know?
Yeah.
And so I think that was really like the defining moment, being fired, the way that I was fired, the way that they walked me out of that building.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Wait, so I need, if you're comfortable with it, I need a little more details on that. When you say the way they walked you out of the building, what exactly do you mean by that?
So I had a meeting. So it was like the month, you have like a 3-month probationary period. And so after the 3 months, I met with the news director and she's like, hey, we're going to extend your probationary period. I was like, okay. And then that last month, I felt like I had progressed. I was like, this is just a big adjustment for me coming from college, waking up at 2:15 in the morning, doing traffic in the morning. Like, there's no traffic in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina at 5 a.m. So that was a struggle. Then trying to turn stories for, like, I would shoot my stories and then they would turn the next day. So, it was just a big adjustment for me. And I felt like 3 months wasn't enough time to get the adjustment. Okay. So but I did feel like I was progressing. So when the 4-month period came, I had a meeting with her. I'm thinking she's going to say, hey, we've seen some progression. Here's some more things to work on. We'll move forward. She's like, no, like, we're letting you go. We don't feel like you've done enough. And I was like, okay. And she's like, there was like the chief photographer in there with me. And she's like, he's going to escort you to your car. And I was like, oh my, what? So I wanted to go back to my computer. I was like, they only gave me like a time to like go and grab my stuff off my desk. I couldn't go on my computer. I couldn't get like any of the work that I had done. They were like, this is our computer. That's what they told me. And he walked me off of the property into my car. And then they watched me drive. And I think once I drove off, then it hit me like, I literally just got fired from this job and I am at ground zero. Like, I'm like square one. I don't have anything. So I think that like word kind of traveled around the station, and I had like a great morning crew that I worked with. So like the directors were able to go in their archive and pull like my live shots from the week. I had an anchor that I love, she was a Black woman. And she pulled like some of the stuff from like, I think like that we had maybe like in our archives, like on our system. She was able to kind of pull some of my stuff and they mailed me my stuff. And that's what I was able to use to get my next job. Wow. But if I didn't have them, I wouldn't have had anything. I would have just, like I said, been at square one. I went back to Atlanta and then just kind of sat there for I don't know how long. Probably would have gotten out of the business because, I think for me being a Black woman already, it was going to be harder to get a job. And then to say, well, I got fired and I don't have anything really to show for the work that I've done. I think it would have been really difficult. Yeah.
How long? That's crazy. Wow, that is insane.
Yeah.
So how long did it take you to maybe get out of the shock of that, right? Like it's beyond humiliation maybe, but like a shock just as you're driving away, like damn, like I don't have anything right now. Like how long did that shift take from maybe that shock to what you said, like, okay, I just need to be over prepared. Like how long did it take to kind of get to that moment of like just totally changing your mindset of how you went about the job?
Yeah, I think that I obviously cried. My mom cried. So she was crying worse than me. And it was crazy because my parents were actually in Myrtle Beach at the time. So they were there visiting me. And it was
Mm,
right after Christmas. It was like the 28th of December. So they were already there. And thank God they were there because I really needed them to be there in that time. And I think like maybe after a day, and I was like, okay, once I was able to like talk to some people at the station, knew they were going to help me, I was like, okay, like I didn't feel as bad. But I think going back to Atlanta, then I kind of went back down in like a little hole a little bit.
mm,
And I remember kind of sulking for, I would say maybe like 2 or 3 weeks. And then my
mm,
dad is like, okay, girl, what you about to do? Because you're not sitting here. And so that, like I said, that was December 28th of 2015. And by March 6th of the next year, I had started a new job. That was my first day in Wichita Falls. So it wasn't a long time
mm,
that I was out of the business. Yeah.
mm. So when you speak of like kind of learning that like okay, you need to just be over prepared for like how you kind of go about this job now, like what did it take to maybe like start to really embrace and internalize that? Was it just maybe just what you went through, or was it you think maybe something deeper? Because I just know from my experience, like just as kind of like black people, like I know for like from my mom would always tell me like you have to be, twice, three, four times as good as your white counterparts because you're starting so much further behind them, and so you just have to be so much better just to even get in the same rooms and to get to the same level. So going through what you went through and knowing that you need to embrace kind of that mindset of like being over prepared, like what did that take to maybe really internalize that, just knowing like what you had just been through?
Yeah, I think like I said, my upbringing, I never had to fight with people that didn't look like me. So that wasn't a part of my reality like it was for you. So my parents weren't giving me that talk of you have to be twice as prepared as the white people that go to school with you because there weren't any. I think we had like maybe two or three kids, but
Mm,
there weren't any. We were the majority. And so I think even at Auburn, just college, everyone's nice. It's like, hey, this isn't really the real world. Like, we love everybody. And I was not, like I said, I was actually really good. I won awards and stuff. So it wasn't bad. I think that me going to Myrtle Beach was my first true taste of it,
mm,
really seeing it, like getting an opportunity to talk to anchors and reporters that are really in the business at that station. I remember like the girl who I replaced, so she moved up, and I think she was like Monday through Friday dayside, but she was doing my job before, and she was like, "Oh my God, like you're doing great. I was so bad. Like it took me like 8 months to really get it together."
mm,
But she was white.
mm,
So that was such a tough pill to swallow. And I always felt like they were harder on me. And I think for me, I kind of shut down, like just that's my personality. Like if I if you come across as not genuine, I don't even want to communicate with you. And I think that that's a flaw that I've had to like go through therapy to especially like in the workplace, because
mhm,
you have to communicate. And I'll just be like, I don't want to talk to you. And so I think that was another part of that too was just I didn't feel like my managers were genuine and really wanting to help me. And so I think that that was maybe why I didn't progress as much as I could have. I'm sorry, what was the question? You said
Honestly, I don't even remember what the question was, but I think you answered it perfectly. That's kind of what I was looking for. I
okay.
think it was, yeah, something along the lines of like embracing the whole needing to be over prepared. I think, yeah, I think
Oh
that's
yes.
what it was. Yeah, yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
So that was once I went through that, then I was like, okay, this is really what it is, And so then my next job, I was the only Black person in the newsroom.
Mm.
And so my whole mindset was like completely different. Yeah, my whole mindset was completely different.
Do you now look at that experience as a blessing? I mean, it may have been really heartbreaking, obviously, in the moment, but do you look at it as a blessing in that it helped create like who you are today? Would
Yeah,
that be accurate? Yeah.
like all of the experiences that I've gone through, crazy sports directors, like, that situation in Myrtle Beach. I have them kind of like tucked away when I'm like, I need a little motivation. I'm like, let me go back, like kind of like Michael Jordan. I'm like, let me remember this. And so I can really ball out, you know? So yeah, I definitely keep them. It's not something that I harp on every day. I have gotten over those situations, but I do kind of keep them in the back of my head just to keep me grounded and to keep me, with that mindset of we're going to keep fighting, we're going to keep moving forward. We know what it was like back then, so it just really helps push me when I need a little extra push.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, Samari, I'm kind of winding down here. I guess where can people follow you who want to kind of keep a tab on what you're doing in Nashville and just on your career in general?
Yeah, I have like every social media. Twitter is just my name, Samaria Terry, and then Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube. I have YouTube now. Is Samaria Terry TV. There apparently is a Samaria Terry somewhere, and she takes all of my stuff, even TikTok. We're gonna have to
Ooh.
have a conversation.
Yeah, yeah. You're gonna need to sort
She
that out.
takes,
Reach out to her. Yeah.
because like she has a TikTok and she's like dancing or something. I'm like, I don't want people to think that's me. That's not me. I'm TV.
Okay.
Samaria Terry TV.
Got it. Got it. Awesome. And very last question for you. What does Black success mean to you?
Oh God, yeah, it means everything. It means everything, especially when you think about where we've come from, African Americans specifically. It's just, to think about our ancestors and the journey that they took here and what they had to endure when they got here. At every turn, everything was just, they got their feet knocked from up under them. So I think that us being able to live out their dreams and have success, I mean, it just kind of gives me chills just thinking about it. And I hope that all of us move forward and we have our ancestors in the back of our mind, because I know that they're walking with us through this journey, and so excited to see what we're able to do in
That's
this country.
beautiful.
Yeah.
Beautiful. Love it. Samaria, thank you so much for joining the show. Yeah, this has been great. First guest. Feel like it was a hit. Thank you for being open with me. And yeah, everyone tuning in, please be sure to check out Pinnacle Code on Instagram, X, TikTok. I'm on pretty much all the social media platforms. And I did make sure I got all of them, just the name. So
Yes.
no one would try to be in
See?
like a situation where someone is kind of like, yeah. So I did make sure to secure all that. But
Good.
appreciate you guys for tuning in. And until next week, I'll see you guys soon. Peace out. Thank you, Samaria. Appreciate you.
Thank you.